Sagittarius 1. A grand army of the Republic, Campfire. So we're talking about military men having a chat around a campfire. In a sense, is a symbol of nostalgia and reflection and just talking about what has happened. And it's what you do after a day's military activity. You talk about the day, and perhaps you've had a battle, and you discuss whether the strategy worked, and those kind of things. The equivalent for me was when we played rugby, and in the evening we'd go over the game and discuss who did what and who made what mistakes and so on. So that sort of sense of having had a fight and then being reminiscent about it. And we need to consider the military as being emblematic of our struggles in life. Two forces exist really to tame the beast within us. And although culture and civilization is generally understood to be the gentle way of doing that, you don't begin there. You begin with the military approach, and in our own lives, we struggle, we fight, we overcome obstacles, we have to work really hard to claim our place. And from then on, we got an easier time defending it, which is basically holding ourselves in a repose so that we are ready to come forward if necessary to defend our space. But when we are not actually in the struggle, then we're resting, preparing for the struggle. And a part of that repose is going over the past, what went wrong, what we did right, what strategies to change. So this general idea of breathing in and breathing out. Breathing out is like engaging with life, getting ready for the struggle every day, taking on the battles. And then breathing in, you're just more in contemplation and consideration and reflection. It's not a small mystery, this one. It's just subtle. The whole idea of experience and knowledge is central to our life's purpose, our very existence. And the experiences we have, to some extent, are all a little bit of a struggle. Even if the only struggle that we have is to understand how to perceive them. But usually it's much more than that. So experience brings us into the struggle. If we want experience, if we want an adventure, then we tend to have to overcome obstacles. Even if you want to go on holiday to a foreign country, you've got to get through the whole gauntlet of booking the ticket and going through passport control and waiting for the plane. And it's a real struggle to do that if you're not in the mood. And even if you are in the mood, you sort of soon lose the mood. It's a struggle to travel. And it's a struggle to have experiences. And our adventures are meant to be struggles. An adventure without a struggle isn't an adventure. And an experience which is not an adventure is not really an experience. It's something else. It's some kind of assimilation process if it's not new. And that assimilation process is more properly dealt with in the realm of knowledge, gaining knowledge rather than having experiences. So we can see we can neatly divide life into two camps, really, where we struggle and have experiences and adventures and we're in harm's way. And then we assimilate that. We're relaxing, we're just considering things, and we're relatively safe. But our job is to give meaning to what has happened. If we don't give meaning to our experiences, if we don't formulate the events of our lives into something philosophical or spiritual or meaningful, to develop a better understanding of the nature of reality, the nature of who we are, the nature of how we are being who we are. If we don't work that out, well then, what are we doing here? I mean, it's okay just to mess around and have a good time and to live for pleasure and comfort for a while, but it's not the meaning of life. such a life would become devastatingly boring and pointless and lead inevitably to some depressed state. Unless there is meaning in our lives, then we degenerate. And to have meaning in our lives, we have to struggle and give some attention to that struggle from a very subtle inner reality point of view. This is not easily gained alone. We're talking here about old generals around the campfire who need another point of view in order to refute their own point of view and change it and gain deeper wisdom, or to refute the other's point of view and establish a greater confidence in our own standpoint, which we interpret as wisdom and truth. In fact, it's just opinion and our own expression of who we are. So what we consider to be meaningful is not ultimately the truth. It's just a description of our particularities. The fact of sharing your path of developing wisdom with other people is of some importance. We get involved with people for different reasons. Some do things for us. Some we're attracted to be with. Others are in the way or in our way or on our way, and we just have to tolerate them, and so on and so forth. So we've got all these possible ways of relating to people. And yet, some of them pass the test of time. If you're sitting around the campfire with somebody that's been in your life for 10, 20, 30 years, it's a different experience to somebody you've just met today. Very, very different experience indeed. And you have different conversations. The early conversations in a friendship are rather more often shallow or workaday or useful on that surface level. It's not philosophical very often or spiritual. But if you've been hanging out with somebody for a very long time, there is this aspect of a development of shared meaning by which you deepen your own commitment to your own meaning in life. So these allegiances and friendships that we form are non-trivial. They cement us or crystallize us into the person that we are. Now, another aspect of this process of nostalgia is studied much in Sufism. The word nostalgia in Sufism, or divine nostalgia, it's ishq. And it's a beautiful sense of yearning for God. The practice in Sufism is remembrance or zikr. And the whole thing of trying to remember our source, whether you want to make that a religious experience or just a philosophical one, in some way we came into existence. Something gave rise to us. And when we move into the deepest level of understanding of the meaning of life, we have to form a relationship with what that was. We have to decide what it was that we feel gave rise to us. Some call it God, of course, but others have got a more scientific, materialistic kind of approach to the matter. It's not really central to this point. What is central to this point is that the act of remembrance is the avenue of inquiry into that question. We forget, and we shouldn't forget. If we try to actually remember the important things, we will come to understand what the important things are. If you've only got a certain capacity to remember, then you're going to let go of those things which are not consequential to you and hold focus on those things that are. Many of us, as we get older, find that our memory is just not what it was, and we start forgetting the names of people that we've met. But we don't forget the names of people whom we know very deeply and who are really important to us. And this selective memory process is a way of understanding what remembrance is. The practice of remembrance, like calling back to mind, remembering, and actually having a somatic or a body experience of that process of calling to mind. Remembrance is reliving an experience. And by doing that, we keep it alive. So we tend to go through the process of repeatedly remembering things that are important to us, the things that give meaning to our lives. That's what we remember. The practice of remembrance is so that we don't forget that which has meaning, that which gives meaning to our lives. And Remembrance Day, for example, is a process in England where we remember the dead in the First World War. We don't lose the lesson of our struggles. We give meaning to those struggles.